Did songwriting in a way come easy to the band?
Johannes has been writing songs since you were what?
Yeah,
when did you write your first song?
Exactly, like as a little, like we had that piano standing at home and I couldn't play it, but you know put two fingers and like make like playing with a toy, just like you would take out a Barbie doll and shoot a porno with her or whatever. No, I didn't. But whatever you would play as a kid. So we had this piano that I could play with, rather play on. And since I didn't know any songs, I would make things up. And then because of the piano stuff, I could read sheet music pretty early. And I had another friend had this cool MIDI sequencer program that you wrote with notes with sheet music in. So that was a way for us when we were playing as kids. We were composing. So it was there very early on, and I had written songs with that other band that I left for Avatar a bit later. We actually also played that show. Avatar's first show was Classic Molly's second show out of 3 or 4 shows. But so for me it was like always, I started early.
Okay.
And I don't know how much Jonas had written before that.
No, I don't think he did.
I think
write
Him to the
that
Victim
much.
of Lie might have been his first song.
Second song, Christ Raping Motherfucking Hellfire.
No, that's my riffs actually.
Is it?
Yeah. Christ Raping Motherfucking Hellfire is my riff. I tried to figure out
long titles.
But so starting at an early age, this might sound a bit vague, but what did songwriting do for you, that creative process?
That's a good question. I believe honestly any kind, like when you get older you start to more easily draw parallels to other things, and I think it's the same joy that even an adult can get from, in part of it at least, is like the satisfaction of building with Legos or a porch in your summer house if you have one, or whatever, like just the process of seeing something and then realizing it, and it's self-realization. Is that how we say it in English? I guess as is part of that, and then of course when your muscles grow as an artist, when you start to be able to articulate things and realize that you're articulating things. You do that always, whatever you do, especially if you do something artistic.
Right.
That is what you do. You sit there and articulate and process things, and once you become better at that and become more articulate, you clean out the dirty corners of your brain, I guess.
So for the band in general, then when was this? Well, when did you feel as a band proficient enough that you were making the music that you had in your mind, or that you wanted?
We thought we were like that since day 2.
Okay.
And then, but again, it went pretty fast.
Okay.
Again, but the way we wrote in the beginning was kind of different. It was really like I would write my songs, Jonas would write his songs, Simon was in the band at the time, would write his songs. And then we never understood what the fuck did he want from us when he came and like suggested new drum fills, and we're like, but the song is done, I already showed you the fill. What are you talking about? This can't be bad. And we fought about nothing really. And it was a long process for us to start to collaborate as songwriters. I would say, that even took a couple of albums to really get there. The collaboration prior to sitting down together, I have one idea, what do you think? Oh, let's try this with that, which is what we're doing now.
Right.
And which is just healthier, I think. Was again like I would show up with my song and I had coded and MIDI the drums exactly as I wanted them, even though I can play a very unsteady Billie Jean beat and play do-gu-do-gu-do-gu-do-gu cling, but still I knew of course better because it was my song. And so the collaboration will be, here's my song, and someone says, can we try this? And I say no, and they do it anyway, and I go home pissed, and next week, actually that was good. And you do that for a couple of weeks until everyone is satisfied.
But in that sense, because you say now it's much more collaborative, and your music is quite, it's not just one style, there are a lot of different things happening. So is that where kind of the eclectic thing comes from?
I guess so. But the whole thing that we feel we are very open to, like, a question, especially young bands are being asked. I don't think so many people ask Paul McCartney, what are your influences? But when you get that question, I think our list is just too long and strange and ambiguous because define influence,
Sure.
you know, that we can use so many things. And also that nowadays we have this philosophy, again, coming back to when you define a band's sound, is that Queen and the Beatles are the two best examples that I always can think of bands that that their sound is in the performance, the performers themselves. Like the sound of Queen is that Freddie Mercury singing, Brian May play guitars, etc.
Sure.
And the same with Beatles, and they both had very vastly different songs that all of them sounded like, Beatles / Queen, you know. And we figure like that, and we can do whatever we want as long as we believe in it and we feel strongly for it and we think it's great and can perform it well.
Sure.
Because it will always be my vocal cords there and his drumming, and that is where you get the sound.
In that sense, and then if we take the latest album as an example, do you have in mind beforehand a lot of what the album will be like?
No, I can't say that.
No.
It's like we are more of a we know it when we see it kind of thing.
Yeah.
I believe we are very good at knowing what it's during the process what it's not supposed to be.
Right.
I feel like we can quickly, because since every writing process is so experimental, we quickly it means that people can come with very out there ideas, and sometimes that is great, and that is they help us find a new path towards not repeating ourselves and providing fresh ideas. But we're also very quick at realizing when we are going astray and into something doesn't really interest us. But I mean, but you first have to write. We first have to write the bad idea before we know it's bad.
Right.
But I think it's also very natural for any creative person.
But in that sense, because I wrote Jean de La Fontaine down. So when did he? When were you introduced to him?
Through the research, I wanted to learn more about fable writing.
Okay.
So it was part of when I reached the point of like, okay, so this could be, because first this became an original fable with our own story. One idea would be to take pre-existing fables and twist them somehow. I don't know, there is I think it's a Warner Brothers cartoon, Hanna-Barbera, where, it's like Little Red Riding Hood, but the way it actually was or something, and then I think she's more or less a prostitute or a go-go girl dancing in a club, and the wolf comes there with a limo. That kind of twisting a classic tale somehow. And and the first idea was to do something like that. And in that research, I found out about him and read a bit of his work, and there came, and then some other ambitions grew there. Instead of just doing something pre-existing, like to just take the tools that I find there and write something that belongs to us as a band instead of playing around with somebody else's ideas.